as much as I enjoyed Wes Craven's Nightmare on Elm Street, the original, and for the most part, every one of the sequels that were done, including Wes Craven's New Nightmare, I have to say that, and I must be in the minority here, and frankly, I have no issue with that, but before you think that I'm full of it, at least at least watch my entire video before you think I'm full of it. That's my biggest request. That having been said, this is my take and review. Now, I did not get a chance to see this one in theaters, but I did end up seeing it when it came out on DVD. And yes, this is the combo pack with both the DVD and the Blu-ray. That having been said, I for one thought the new mythology for Freddy Krueger, I thought it was, I thought it was pretty good. If for no other reason, then I think what Wes Craven and even Robert Englund had in mind for Freddy Krueger, for some reason, I have a hard time understanding why they could have intended on making Freddy Krueger as iconic as they did. I mean, we've got a child serial killer, and all of a sudden, because of all these silly wisecracks, in the original ones, that is, all these silly wisecracks, and that makes him admirable and worse, iconic. And I have a hard time understanding that. I don't think that Wes or even Robert, that was their original intention for Freddy Krueger. If nothing else, I do want to review Wes Craven's version of the first one, and Wes Craven's New Nightmare, both of which I have plenty of praise for both. That having been said, even though Wes Craven pretty much renounced any association with the remake, and I really did like it. I didn't expect to, but I did. I mean, as much as I like Robert Englund's version and Wes Craven's original and the New Nightmare, well, let's just say that the new cast does a nice job. Jackie Earle Haley definitely makes Freddy Krueger's character his own, to say the least. And in my opinion, they actually made Freddy Krueger, well, in my opinion, they made him pretty menacing, frightening, and in Jackie's own way, they made him pretty scary. They kind of hinted on a little bit more about Freddy Krueger's motivation, and to a degree, they kind of hinted a little bit on Freddy Krueger being more than just a child serial killer. And for that alone, for a modern audience, I think it should have been a lot more praise than it was. Now, I know that a lot of people did not like the remake. If for no other reason, then it changed too much about Freddy Krueger's mythology, which I had no problem with, because when you do a remake, like I keep saying, you really should not follow the original scene for scene anyway, let alone follow the storyline almost scene for scene. And if you change the mythology just enough to make it somewhat more original, well, like I said, more power to you. And that's exactly what the creators of this one did, at least in my opinion. That having been said, I found this one, I mean, granted it was a lot darker in its own way than the original. I mean, Wes Craven, as hard as he tried, even he made Freddy Krueger somewhat comedic. Sorry, Wes. Not to say that Jackie Earle Haley did not put his own take on Freddy Krueger, on the Freddy Krueger character. He did. But at the same time, some of the new characters in the remake, I thought they did a nice job. If for no other reason, then we have actors that are somewhat becoming more well-known these days. I mean, we've got different actors, some of which Now, granted, a lot of the characters, just like in Wes Craven's original, some of them lasted longer than others. But I don't want to go into that, because if you haven't seen it, I don't want to give too much away. Yes, they modernized the story. Yes, they changed the mythology of certain characters, especially Freddy Krueger in particular. But that did not kill the storyline for me. The only thing that I didn't like about this one, for the most part, was that the ending, even though it was a lot more graphic and a lot more brutal, the ending was very, very similar to the ending in Wes Craven's. That was my biggest disappointment. And if nothing else, I hate to say it, if they are going to do a sequel, and I'm assuming they've thought about it from time to time, if it flopped in theaters, maybe that'll keep it from getting one. I don't know. That's your guess is as good as mine. But if Wesley Strick, who scripted this remake, decides to come back, as well as Samuel Bayer, I think that's his name, comes back as director, I'm hoping that if nothing else, they don't go as far with this franchise as they did with the originals. That's all I can say. I'm hoping they do not go that far with it. If nothing else, even with scary movies, now granted, the Scream series never lost their spunk for me, and for the most part, neither did the Saw movies. Personally, I think if you're going to go anywhere past a fourth chapter, if nothing else, bring something new to the table. The Saw movies pretty much did that, as good as they were, but I'm hoping if they decide to make an 8th one, I'm hoping it's kind of a part 2 of the final chapter. That's one thing that I am hoping that they do. But on that note, if the remake to Nightmare on Elm Street does end up getting a sequel, I won't be surprised, but I'm hoping they don't go as overboard as they did with the originals, because they really don't. Considering there's a lot more conclusiveness, if nothing else, to this one than there was with the originals. That's anybody's guess. So, like I said, your guess is as good as mine. Like I said, comments are welcome, but at least give me a reason one way or the other. That's my primary request there. If you're a fan of Freddy Krueger, you may or may not like this one, and believe it or not, I believe when I tell you, I respect that. But when it comes to originals and remakes of classics, personally I try to take them both on their own merits. That's how I usually take them. On that note, check this remake out, if you choose to, and watch my review and see what you think. If you disagree or agree, I'm all ears. Happy viewing. Take care. And as punny as this may sound, sweet dreams.